Hello everyone and welcome to the Cape Town Harbour and Waterfront. Today we are heading to Robben Island, but first we've got to wait for some harbour traffic to pass by. Now I am very excited about this activity today, as Robben Island is one of South Africa's top historical attractions. For centuries it was used as a penal colony, primarily for political prisoners. Now, although its maximum security prisons have now closed, the island remains famous as the place where former South African President Nelson Mandela was an inmate for 18 years from 1964 to 1982. He did serve a total time in prison of 27 years, but he only did 18 years here at Robben Island. Now, the island was turned into a museum, and in 1999 it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has become an extremely important symbol for the new South Africa, reflecting the triumph of democracy over apartheid and the ongoing journey towards racial tolerance. And these days you can do a tour of the prison that is led by an ex-inmate that will tell you what it was like from his own experiences. Everybody, it is now time to board the ferry towards the island, and as I am preparing myself for my first trip to Robben Island, I start to remember some of the scary history that I lived through in the build-up to the end of apartheid and the first democratic elections in South Africa. The few years between when Mandela was released and when he was elected president between 1990 and 1994 were very, very scary times. The country was teetering on the brink of civil war. And I remember also in the build-up to the 94 elections, people were stockpiling food and people were really afraid that it was going to all descend into complete chaos and war. But we were blessed with a peaceful transition of power, and today South Africa is still a shiny jewel in the crown of democracy worldwide. Here we are arriving at the harbour of Robben Island, and that's the entrance to the prison buildings. And the buildings on the right that you see there, and we're coming up to them now, were the visitor centre where prisoners could receive their visitors only twice a year, once every 6 months, and they weren't allowed to communicate in any other language than Afrikaans or English. This was incredibly spiteful, as the mother tongue of most prisoners here were an African language, which meant that they could only just sit and stare at their loved ones without even talking to them. And here we are going through the entrance, and it feels a bit sinister and almost forbidding, I must say. Oh, and look at that, a big gun to welcome us at a maximum security prison. What else? And here we are at the limestone quarry where Nelson Mandela and other prominent ANC members spent many years doing hard labor. It was in this cave that some of the more educated prisoners taught others how to read and write by scratching in the dirt. And it is said that a good part of South Africa's current constitution was written here. It was the only place that prisoners were able to escape the watchful eyes of the guards. Oh, and look, here is a church where the prison wardens could come and soothe their conscience and find justification for what they were doing, as the Dutch Reformed Church condoned apartheid for many, many years. And when the moderator of the church, Johan Haynes, in the late 80s, decided to stop condoning apartheid, he was eventually assassinated, shot dead in cold blood in his own house in front of his grandchildren. And here we are approaching the maximum security section of the prison where Mandela was held all these years. And first of all, I just have to say that video shooting is not allowed in there. So from now on, I'll be doing this with pictures only. Okay guys, let's go inside the prison now. And first of all, we head off to the person classification room where our shackles are taken off. And we are being classified as a white or a black or a colored person. The apartheid government loved classifying people by color. And now we are being issued with our prison uniform. And now we pass the armory. As you can imagine, this was a heavily fortified and armored place with machine guns and handguns and shotguns and hunting rifles. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's descend into the depths of the prison. And this is a communal hall where many people shared this space. And that's our guide explaining to us they only received 2 blankets and no mattress. Here he is holding up a prison sentence card, and as we can see that this particular prisoner was number 69, let in 1964, and that's how they classified you. They took away your name and then gave you a number, and Nelson Mandela's number was 466/64, meaning that he was prison number 466 who was let in 1964. Here he is now holding up the food allocation for the different racial groups. And as you can see on the left-hand side, there is the allocation for colored and Asian people. And on the right-hand side for Bantus, which is another derogatory word for black people. And as you can see that the poor black guys never got a break. They got less of everything and worse quality food. And as you can see, no jam or syrup at all. The poor guys couldn't even have a little sweet treat. Gosh, I have to say that this is getting a bit too much now. I just don't understand why anybody could have ever thought that apartheid was a good idea. It was just cruel. Right, everybody, we are now finally heading towards the actual section where Mandela was held captive. And this section contains rooms for individuals, not communal rooms like we've seen before. And we are now proceeding to the A and C section. He was in C section. And that there is the hospital section we're seeing through the bars there. And now we are in the actual big courtyard where they had their outside time every day. This is actually a very famous courtyard. There's lots of pictures of them sitting here and doing labor and getting some exercise. And we can now see the pictures that they show here. There is Mandela on the right and all the other prisoners in this courtyard. And now we're in the corridor approaching the Nelson Mandela jail cell. And this is one of the most famous jail cells in the world, as you can imagine. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the jail cell where Nelson Mandela was held captive for 18 years of his total sentence. And as you can see, it is not the most luxurious of settings and not very big at all. And no bed, no mattress, only 2 blankets to sleep on. So you decide if you sleep on 2 blankets or underneath 2 blankets or in between the blankets. Sad times, guys, and inspiring to see that somebody could live in these circumstances and still come out smiling and with an attitude of forgiveness. It really touches the heartstrings still to this day. And this guy, I don't know what to say. I think everybody knows all about Mandela, so I really have nothing to say that you don't know already. But thank you, Mr. Mandela, for saving this country. Anyways, guys, now let's finish with our tour here. Time to head out of the prison for a very short walk to freedom, I must say. And I have to say that this was such an incredibly interesting day, and I can really strongly recommend that you come and visit Robben Island and the prison here when you come and visit South Africa, since it is such a crucial part of South African history. You really owe it to yourself and to all the South Africans who suffered under apartheid rule to come and check this out. Right, guys, now let's head back to Cape Town and to the waterfront. I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed by just being reminded again about the brutal past of South Africa and how people were just denied their basic rights so that a small part of the population could just live in luxury and in wealth. That's basically what apartheid was. It wasn't a religious ideology, it was just an ideology of greed and power. Okay, I think I'm going to gather my thoughts here at Nobel Square, which includes the sculptures of the country's 4 Nobel Peace Prize winners, Albert Luthuli, Desmond Tutu, F.W. de Klerk, and Nelson Mandela. Well, that was always going to be an uncomfortable experience. You see, roughly summed up, my apartheid experience kind of started, the first time I noticed something was off was when I was about 5 years old, and we were visiting my grandparents on their farm in the northwest province near Klerksdorp. That's way up in the north of the country. Farmland, playing with my Legos in the lounge and watching TV. It was a cold winter's night, and up there the winter's nights do get quite freezing. And we were in the lounge and everybody was watching TV, and I remember noticing all of a sudden outside in the courtyard, outside in the cold, were a bunch of black kids of the farm workers, and they were watching TV from the outside in. And they couldn't even hear the sound or anything. They were just desperate to see a television set. And I remember that made me feel very uncomfortable. At 5 years old, I was playing with my little Legos, and all of a sudden I just noticed that these kids were outside in the freezing cold. And obviously I was 5 years old, so I didn't do anything about it. I just carried on. But I remember that was the first time I felt uncomfortable, that something is definitely not right. And then as time moved on from the mid-80s to the late 80s, and things just got progressively worse and more chaotic in South Africa, I just lived a very sheltered existence in the countryside. And we knew about stuff going on from the TV news, but it was propaganda on one side, and anyway, from the apartheid regime, and I don't think the information was very accurate that we were given. And then I also remember the second time I noticed something was really off was when Mandela was released in 1990, and my parents and the community that we lived in, everybody most thought that that was a very bad thing, and that the world was coming to an end, that South Africa is now doomed, and as the rest of the world rejoiced in this good news. That wasn't the case for the people that I was surrounded with. They were very worried indeed. You know, it was only with the World Cup Rugby in 1995 when Nelson Mandela came out in a Springbok rugby jersey that my parents truly started to relax for the first time. So it took them a while to get around, but they did eventually, and again that was thanks to the great work of Nelson Mandela. Just one more thing, we did win the World Cup again just now in Japan in 2019, and this time the Springboks had a black captain for the first time in history, so kind of Springboks doing a full circle there. I've always put off visiting Robben Island because I knew it would be an and because I knew it would be an unpleasant experience facing the brutally painful past of South Africa, and sure enough it delivered well today. But I think it is important that we all go there at least once in your life to just appreciate the brutal past of South Africa and the amazing and incredible sacrifices that was made, and the forgiveness that was granted, and the fact that the country is still standing today. I mean, not without its problems, but certainly we are a lot better off than we used to be. Thank you very much and have a lovely day.